Heavenly Father, as the night settles around me and the silence begins to wrap its arms around my soul, I bring to you the weight I can no longer carry. This is not a prayer of resistance, it is a prayer of surrender. I release the burdens I've held on to all day, the expectations, the fears, the mistakes, and the things I tried to control. I acknowledge that I am not the source of my own peace. You are. Lord, let your mercy meet me in this moment. Remind me that surrender is not weakness, but the doorway to freedom. In letting go, I am not losing. I am finally learning how to be still and know that you are God. Tonight, I choose surrender not because I'm giving up, but because I trust you enough to lay everything down. There is a moment every night when the world quiets, but our minds scream louder. That moment can be holy if we allow it to be. The ache of trying to figure everything out on our own leaves our hearts restless and exhausted. But what if rest isn't something we earn by solving our problems, but something we receive by letting go of them? Neuroscience tells us that deep sleep comes not when we feel finished, but when we feel safe, and spiritual safety comes from the soul's decision to trust someone greater. Surrender then becomes a sacred key, unlocking not just peace for the night, but hope for tomorrow. When you say, "God, I give this to you," something inside you loosens. The soul unclenches, the mind breathes, and the body begins to drift toward the rest it was designed for. Psalm 91 doesn't begin with noise or striving. It begins with a secret place. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. This secret place isn't hidden in a location. It's hidden in surrender. When we finally stop running, we find it. When we finally stop controlling, we enter it. Tonight, the shadow of the Almighty is not far away. It's closer than our breath. You don't need to prove anything to earn his shelter. You simply need to say, "Here I am, God. I let go." And in that whisper, heaven bends down to cover you with peace. You are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. You are not too late to lay everything down. Even now, as you hear these words, the presence of God is drawing near like a soft blanket of love to cover your tired heart. And Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." He was not offering a metaphor. He was offering himself. Rest isn't an escape, it's an embrace. God's rest is not found in perfect circumstances, but in perfect surrender. Think of how a child climbs into the arms of their parent without explanation, without apology, and simply falls asleep. Tonight, be that child. You don't have to understand everything. You don't have to have closure. You simply need to come home to the arms of your Heavenly Father. Let the worry go. Let the frustration go. Let the guilt and shame go. There is no punishment waiting for you here. Only peace. Only the calm that comes when love holds you. In moments of darkness, your soul might say, "But what if I don't know how to surrender?" Let me tell you, surrender is not a performance. It's a posture. It's the quiet turning of your heart toward the one who already knows what you need. It's the holy exhale that follows the trying. It's the moment you say, "I can't, but you can." And God responds not with condemnation, but with compassion. He sees your struggle, your fatigue, and your longing to rest. Psalm 23 reminds us, "He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul." He doesn't force us to figure it out. He leads. He restores. He knows that we are dust. He knows our thoughts before we speak them. So stop trying to earn what he freely gives. Let go. Let God. Maybe today was filled with chaos, traffic, arguments, silence that cut deeper than words. Maybe it was filled with disappointment or the crushing weight of expectations unmet. And maybe you've been holding on by a thread. But what if tonight is not the end of your strength, but the beginning of your healing? What if God has been waiting for you not to get stronger, but to finally get still? This is the night to let go of your plans and pick up his promises. This is the night to choose peace over perfection. This is the night to remember that rest is your inheritance, not just a luxury. And surrender is the path that brings you there. You are safe now. You are seen now. The night is holy not because it is perfect, but because God is present in it. Right here, right now. He is with you. There is something holy about exhaustion when we bring it to God. It's no longer a failure, it becomes a prayer. Tonight, as your body sighs under the weight of the day, know this: God does not expect you to be unshaken, unbothered, or unbreakable. He is not impressed by your ability to hold it all together. What touches his heart is your willingness to fall apart in his presence. That's what surrender really looks like. It's not eloquence, it's honesty. It's not strength, it's the humility to admit you are tired, afraid, and unsure. When you whisper, "God, I can't do this without you," heaven doesn't flinch. God draws near. The God who created the stars is not too grand to hold your tears. He's not too far to meet you in your room right now. You do not need to pretend to pray well tonight. You only need to mean it. He hears the tremble in your soul and calls it beautiful. He sees your longing for peace and calls it faith. You are not weak for needing help. You are strong because you know who to ask. He is closer than your breath. There's a deep exhale waiting for you when you let go of the idea that surrender must be dramatic. Sometimes surrender is simply lying still and whispering, "God, I give this to you." It doesn't need to be poetic, it only needs to be real. Think about the weight you've been carrying. Whether it's worry about finances, pain from relationships, confusion about your next step, or grief that you can't name, each of those burdens has a spiritual mass, and like any heavy thing, they affect your ability to breathe freely, rest deeply, and see clearly. God doesn't want to take them from you because he's disappointed. You're not in trouble. He wants to carry them because he's your Father. You don't need to bargain or explain. You only need to allow. Let him step in tonight. Let him carry what you were never meant to hold forever. His shoulders are strong enough. His love is big enough. And his peace is close enough. Right here, right now, surrender is not a distant idea. It's your open door to relief. Step through. Let go. Rest. He is already on the other side, waiting with grace. When you spiritually surrender, you also physiologically shift. Neuroscience confirms what Scripture has always declared: the body follows the soul. When you signal to your heart that you are safe, your brain calms, your breath slows, your muscles release their tension. Surrender tells your entire being, it is okay to stop trying to survive this alone. That's when healing begins. Psalm 91 promises, "He shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you shall take refuge." You were never meant to face this world unshielded. The safest place is not behind locked doors, it is beneath God's covering. You don't need to figure out how tomorrow will unfold. You only need to rest under the wings of the Almighty tonight. That is enough. He is enough. There's something sacred about saying, "God, I don't know how to fix this, but I know you can hold it." It takes courage to let go. It takes more faith to release than to grip tightly. But every act of surrender is also an act of trust, and trust is the soil where peace grows. Psalm 23 reminds us that he leads us beside still waters, not because we earned the stillness, but because his heart delights in bringing peace to his children. He doesn't rush us. He doesn't pressure us to perform. He simply invites us to lie down. If God is offering you still waters tonight, don't reject the invitation by trying to swim. Just rest. Float in the awareness that you are held, that you are protected, that you are not forgotten. God knows the outcome of every fear you carry, and still, he says, "Be still and know that I am God." Maybe the noise of the day hasn't stopped yet. Maybe your thoughts are still spinning, and the ache in your chest hasn't softened. Maybe you've been carrying disappointment that feels like a weight chained to your spirit. But surrender doesn't require you to be ready. It just asks you to be willing to let God in, willing to stop pretending you've got this, willing to rest, even when everything feels unfinished. Your surrender doesn't have to be complete tonight. It just has to be real. Even if it's clumsy, even if it's scared, even if it's a whisper in the dark, that's enough. You are enough. You always have been, and tonight God wants to meet you not at your peak, but at your point of need. He is not waiting for you to impress him. He's waiting for you to trust him, let go, and let God be God for you, with you, right now. Surrender is not an escape from responsibility, it's a return to reality, the reality that you were never created to carry life alone. From the beginning, God walked with Adam in the cool of the day. Intimacy with the Creator was never a reward, it was the design. And tonight, that design still stands. When you lay down your burdens and whisper, "Lord, I need you," you are stepping back into the blueprint of peace. You don't have to be enough. You only need to remember who is. Psalm 55:22 says, "Cast your burden on the Lord, and he shall sustain you." That word cast means to throw, aggressively, urgently, without holding back. Don't place your burdens down gently. Fling them at his feet. Let him catch the weight before it crushes you. Your worry is not noble. Your stress is not a badge of honor. Your soul was not made to live under constant strain. Release it, all of it, even the part you think you must manage alone, especially that part. There is a deeper level of trust that only opens when everything familiar seems to fall away. That moment of spiritual nakedness, where the job, the plan, the relationship, or even your own strength fails, is often the doorway to sacred dependence. The world may call it weakness, but heaven calls it worship. When you stand with empty hands and say, "God, I have nothing left but you," you are closer to breakthrough than you've ever been. It's in this place that miracles unfold. Why? Because your hands are finally free to receive. Sometimes the blessing is blocked not by sin but by self-sufficiency. But grace has always been attracted to emptiness. The jar with nothing left gets filled. The heart that confesses its fear is the one embraced. God is not looking for your polished self. He's not interested in religious posturing. He's looking for truth in the inward parts. The raw, trembling honesty that says, "I trust you because I can't trust myself." In that honesty, peace flows like a river. When was the last time you let yourself simply be loved by God? Not for what you could produce, but because you exist. Not because you've succeeded, but because you are His. This is what surrender invites. A return to belovedness, a rest from proving. It is the gentle collapse of performance beneath the weight of grace. It is laying down your to-do list, your spiritual guilt, and even your theological questions, and receiving this truth. God loves you tonight, freely, without conditions, and nothing you've done today disqualifies you from resting in that love. Romans 8:38-39 assures us that nothing, absolutely nothing, can separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus. That includes your confusion, your bad decisions, your disappointment, and your weariness. God's love doesn't retreat in your brokenness, it draws closer. When you surrender, you're not losing control. You're returning home to the only arms strong enough to hold you. Even now, as these words enter your heart, something deep inside begins to soften. It's the slow undoing of tension. It's the quiet unraveling of all the knots you didn't know were tied in your soul. This is sacred work, not loud, not flashy, but holy. It is the work God does best. The world is loud with urgency, but heaven moves in stillness. The Holy Spirit is not pacing the floor with anxiety. He is hovering over you with peace. As Genesis says, the Spirit hovered over the deep before creation began, and He's hovering over you now, ready to bring order to the chaos of your mind. But first, you must surrender the right to run the show. You must be still. Not idle, still, like the surface of water before it reflects the stars, still, like a child in the arms of their father, still, like your soul when it finally knows, "I am safe, I am loved, I can rest." There's a sacred exchange that happens in surrender. You give God your worry, and He gives you His wisdom. You hand Him your fear, and He surrounds you with His favor. You loosen your grip on your timeline, and He gives you peace in His. This is not a transaction of merit, but of mercy. God is not a vending machine. He's a father, and every good father longs to carry what is too heavy for his child. Tonight, surrender is not about letting go into nothingness. It's about letting go into someone who knows the end from the beginning, someone who saw this day before you woke up, someone who is not threatened by your panic, confused by your pain, or embarrassed by your prayers. He understands the language of tears, and He responds with presence. When you give God what you cannot fix, you are not failing, and trust is the key that unlocks the rest your body, soul, and spirit have been aching for all along. Think of the things you've been clenching tightly in your heart, the outcomes you're terrified of losing, the relationships you're afraid of breaking, the future you keep rehearsing in your mind. Each of these things is like a stone in your hand, and your hand has grown tired from holding them. Your soul is weary, not just from the weight, but from the fear of dropping them. But what if the release isn't the disaster you imagined? What if letting go is actually the beginning of freedom? Sometimes surrender feels like falling, but it always ends in flight. Isaiah 40:31 says, "Those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles." The secret is in the waiting, the trusting, the resting. When you stop fighting to hold your life together, God begins to lift it. And in the lifting, your strength returns. Not the strength to control, but the strength to breathe, to rest, to be held. Let your breath slow down now. Inhale the truth that you are not alone. Exhale the lie that you are failing. Let the rhythm of your breathing become the rhythm of your prayer. In, I trust you. Out, I release this. Neuroscientists call this grounding, but Scripture has always called it abiding. Jesus said, "Abide in me, and I in you." To abide is to remain, to dwell, to stay connected, not through effort, but through presence, through breath, through being. You don't have to work harder tonight. You have to rest deeper. The more you try to manage the storm, the more it grows. But the moment you surrender the need to fix it, God begins to still it. Like Jesus in the boat with the disciples, He's not panicked by the waves. He's sleeping through them, because He knows who He is. And if He is with you, peace is possible, even in the storm, especially in the storm. God's peace isn't passive. It's powerful. It doesn't avoid reality. It transforms it. It doesn't deny pain. It transcends it. And it begins with surrender. That quiet yes whispered in the dark is louder in heaven than the loudest worship song. Because it is true. Because it is vulnerable. Because it is real. And God honors real. He cannot inhabit who we pretend to be. He dwells in truth, in the open spaces of confession, dependence, and trust. So let yourself open now. Don't hide the parts of you that feel too messy. God isn't looking for polished prayers. He's waiting for honest ones, the kind that say, "I'm afraid," or "I don't understand," or "Please help." That kind of prayer moves the heart of God. That kind of surrender makes space for miracles. And that kind of rest, that soul-deep, heart-anchoring, body-relaxing rest, is what you were made for. You are not far from it now. You are one breath away, one whisper, one letting go. Surrender is not a one-time act. It's a rhythm, like waves that return to the shore again and again. You must learn to return to surrender every night, every moment, every time your heart starts racing again. It's not failure to surrender repeatedly. It's wisdom. Every time you lay it down, you make room for God to pick it up. Every time you open your hands, He fills them with something better. Peace, clarity, grace, and strength for the next step. Don't shame yourself for the thoughts that return. Simply meet them with surrender again. Let go again. Breathe again. The world around you may still swirl with noise, but the sanctuary of God's presence remains steady within. You are not the storm, you are the child in the arms of the one who calms it. Return again to that stillness tonight. Come back to the place where your soul remembers, I am not in control, but I am not alone, but I am loved. When you think of surrender, don't imagine giving something up as much as giving something back. Your life is not a possession to protect, it is a gift to return. And every time you surrender, you are saying, God, this life is yours again. That includes your decisions, your regrets, your longings, and even your sleep. Yes, even rest is a holy offering. Psalm 127:2 says, He gives His beloved sleep. What a gentle promise. God doesn't just allow you to rest, He gives it. Sleep is not wasted time. It is sacred space where God works even while you are unaware. In surrender, you enter that space willingly. You allow Him to speak to your heart, renew your mind, restore your body, and cover your spirit. Let tonight be more than recovery. Let it be communion. A place where your breathing slows, your heart softens, and your spirit whispers, Here I am, Lord. I trust you. Again, that's where true rest begins. You don't need to understand everything to surrender. In fact, surrender is often most powerful when understanding is absent, when answers feel distant, and clarity seems unreachable. God invites you to release anyway, because He knows that control is an illusion. And peace begins when the illusion is broken. Trust does not mean you know how, it means you know who. And if you know who holds your future, you can rest even when the path ahead is hidden. Proverbs 3:5-6 calls us to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. That's not a punishment, it's a path to peace. When your understanding fails, lean on the arms that never will. Let surrender be your confession that you do not need to be God tonight. You only need to be held by Him. You only need to lay down your head and let heaven do what you cannot. The act of surrender tonight is not separate from tomorrow's miracle. It is the seed of it. What you release in the dark, God redeems in the light. Every act of surrender plants something eternal. You may not see the fruit right away, but trust that it is growing. When you release your worry, you make room for wisdom. When you release fear, you make way for courage. The soil of surrender is where God does His best work. In your letting go, He begins to build. It may not happen in the way you expect, but it will always be better than what you imagined. Because God doesn't just take things, He replaces them with something greater. So tonight, let your bed be your altar. Let your breathing be your worship. Let your surrender be your song, and trust that something beautiful is already being written in the silence. There is healing in surrender, not just spiritually, but emotionally and even physically. When your soul lets go, your body follows. The tension you've held in your shoulders all day, the racing thoughts that refuse to slow down, the heaviness in your chest that feels like grief or dread, they all respond to surrender. Studies in neuroscience have shown that our bodies release stress hormones when we believe we are in control and under threat. But when we accept that control is not ours to hold and trust that we are safe, our brain signals our body to relax. This is how God designed us, to rest in Him. Psalm 4:8 captures it beautifully. I will both lie down in peace and sleep, for you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety. You are not safe because everything is fixed. You are safe because the one who never sleeps is watching over you. Let that reality begin to settle into your body. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. Let your breath deepen. You are allowed to rest because God is still working. Think of surrender not as a doorway to sleep, but as a pathway to healing. Every night you surrender is a night your soul can begin to mend. When you stop trying to solve what only God can, the energy you spent striving is finally redirected into recovery, into peace, into joy. And over time, that surrender becomes your strength. You learn to live not by grasping, but by releasing. Not by rushing, but by resting. Not by panic, but by peace. You become someone who walks through life less shaken because you've learned to trust deeply, and that trust was built not in the spotlight, but in the secret place, when no one was watching, when the room was quiet, and when your heart finally said, "God, I can't, but you can." That's the sacred strength that grows in the soil of surrender. And it begins tonight. Maybe no one sees how much you're carrying. Maybe others think you're doing fine, but inside you feel like you're unraveling. That quiet storm within you, the self-doubt, the comparison, the fear of failing, has kept you spinning in circles. But surrender stops the spin. It interrupts the spiral. When you say, "God, I give this to you," you are declaring war on the lie that you must manage everything alone. You are silencing the voice that says, "It's all up to you." And in its place, you are hearing a deeper truth. "I am with you always." That voice does not accuse, it comforts. It does not rush, it reassures. And it is speaking now, not through thunder or drama, but in the still, small whisper that says, "Rest. I've got you." You don't have to keep pretending to be strong. You don't have to smile through pain. You don't have to fear the future. You just have to let go and listen. Surrender is the most courageous thing you can do tonight. The world tells you to hustle harder, to prove your worth, to fix everything before you rest. But the kingdom of God works differently. In the upside-down rhythm of grace, rest is not the reward, it's the beginning. It's the posture that invites renewal. In Exodus 14:14, God says, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Let that truth ring over every anxiety that clings to you tonight. You do not need to win the battle alone. You do not need to have the answers. You only need to be still. And in that stillness, trust that He is already moving, already restoring, already speaking to the parts of you that have forgotten how to breathe. Let go now, not just of the stress, but of the script. The story you've told yourself about what must happen and when. Let go of the need to have it all figured out, and in that letting go, find peace, find God, find rest. There is beauty in the breaking when God is the one you break before. In a world that rewards composure and performance, it feels unnatural to fall apart. But in the kingdom, brokenness is not the end, it's the offering. Psalm 51:17 says, "A broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise." Tonight, if your heart feels fragile, if your soul feels splintered, do not hide it. Bring it as it is. You don't need to wait until you've pieced it back together. The God who formed the universe is not intimidated by your tears. He collects them. He doesn't need your perfection. He wants your presence. He wants the raw, unfiltered ache that you've been hiding even from yourself. When you place your shattered places in His hands, He doesn't just comfort you. He begins to make you whole. He doesn't tape the cracks. He fills them with glory. And in that filling, peace flows where fear once lived. Maybe tonight you've reached the end of your own strength. You've tried to control outcomes. You've held your breath, waiting for the situation to turn in your favor. You've prayed, but the silence has felt unbearable. And now you're here, on the edge of sleep, but not at peace. This is the place where surrender is most sacred, not because it's easy, but because it's honest. This is where trust is forged in the furnace of fatigue. This is where God doesn't require answers, only access. And when you give Him access, even without certainty, He meets you with mercy. Isaiah 30:15 declares, "In returning and rest you shall be saved. In quietness and trust shall be your strength." Return now. Return to the one who doesn't need a plan from you, just permission. Let Him meet you not with solutions, but with presence. His nearness is the solution. His peace is the answer. And His love is the bedrock beneath your shaking feet. Sometimes surrender feels like letting a wound bleed, like saying, "I don't know how to stop this pain, but I know you are near." That's not a weak prayer. That's a holy one. When Jesus wept at the tomb of Lazarus, he wasn't ashamed of his tears. He wept knowing resurrection was coming, which means your pain does not disqualify your faith. It reveals it. To weep and still believe, to break and still trust, to feel undone and still offer yourself fully. That is what God treasures. So tonight, surrender may not look like quiet confidence. It may look like trembling hands, whispered prayers, and tear-streaked cheeks. That's okay. God's Spirit intercedes with groanings too deep for words. Your pain is not wasted here. It is received, and through it, something sacred is forming. The seed of surrender is breaking open, and though it hurts now, it will become joy in the morning. Let this be the night you no longer fear your need. Let this be the moment you stop apologizing for your weakness. You were never designed to be self-sufficient. You were designed to be held. And when you surrender, you are not losing your identity. You are finding it as a child of God, as a soul worthy of rest, as a person formed for peace. When you surrender, you remember, I don't have to do this alone. I don't have to know how it ends. I just need to stay here in this moment, breathe, and let God carry me into the next. And as sleep begins to come, let that truth wrap around you like a blanket. I am not forsaken. I am not forgotten. I am fully known and fully loved. I let go of the night, and I fall into the hands that never let go of me. There comes a point in every soul's journey where surrender is no longer a concept, but a lifeline. It's not something you think about, it's something you cling to. Maybe tonight is that night for you. Maybe this is the moment where your heart, exhausted from striving and spinning, finally says, God, I can't carry this anymore. And that's not a sign of giving up. It's a sign of waking up. Waking up to the truth that the God who created you did not ask you to carry the world. He asked you to walk with him. And walking with him often begins when we stop running ahead, stop holding tightly, and stop trying to outrun our own limitations. In surrender, we slow down enough to be found. We open the clenched fists of our pride and fear and discover that peace is not earned, it's received. It's a gift waiting at the threshold of release, and all it takes is one breath, one honest whisper, one moment of saying, I trust you more than I trust myself. It's a strange thing, isn't it, that peace doesn't come from more information, more certainty, or more control, but from less of us and more of him, less pressure and more presence. The moment you give up the need to predict the outcome is the moment God's peace can truly begin its work. Philippians 4:6-7 tells us not to be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, to let our requests be made known to God. And what follows is a promise. The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Notice the order. It's not peace first, then surrender. It's surrender first, then peace. You will not always feel instant relief, but you will always be met with divine presence. That presence becomes your shield, your anchor, your quiet place in the storm. It will guard your mind from spiraling. It will guard your heart from collapsing under fear. But only if you surrender. Tonight may not be quiet on the outside. You may still hear the echo of today's disappointments, the uncertainty of tomorrow's decisions, the regret of words spoken in haste. But inner silence is possible even when outer noise persists. That's the power of surrender. It builds a sanctuary within, a hidden room in your soul where God sits with you in the dim light and whispers, you are not alone. That room is always accessible, but it often remains locked until you release your grip, until you say, this is bigger than me, God, and I trust it's not bigger than you. That key, the trust born of surrender, will open what striving never could. And once you enter, stay. Don't rush to solutions. Don't reach for strategies. Just breathe in the presence that surrounds you. That is holy ground. That is the place where the peace that passes understanding begins to do its slow, sacred work. Let go of needing closure tonight. That story that still feels unfinished, that prayer that remains unanswered, that situation that feels suspended in time. You do not need the conclusion to rest. You need confidence in the author, and the author of your story is not confused, not panicked, not behind schedule. He writes in rhythms we don't understand, and often what feels like a delay is actually divine preparation. So trust the pages you haven't read yet. Trust that the silence is not rejection, but refinement. That the unanswered prayer is not forgotten, but unfolding. When you surrender, you hand God the pen again. You say, write this part too, even if I don't like it, even if I don't get it. I choose to believe you write better endings than I do. That kind of surrender creates space for the supernatural. It moves you from survival to surrender, and from surrender to rest. And in that rest, you are remade. You are renewed. You are home. Sometimes we confuse surrender with defeat, but in the kingdom of God, surrender is the beginning of true victory. It is not the end of your story. It's the turning point. It's the moment when what you couldn't change begins to change you. What you couldn't fix begins to refine you. What felt like failure becomes the doorway to freedom. Tonight, as you release your expectations, your disappointments, your anxieties, and your fears, you are stepping into the most powerful space a human soul can enter, the space of divine trust. This is where the impossible becomes possible, where the burden becomes a blessing, where the midnight becomes morning. Surrender is not a retreat from reality. It is a return to the truth that God is greater than every circumstance. He is not just watching your story unfold. He's holding the pen. He's not just present in your pain. He's repurposing it. And He is not waiting for you to have more faith. He is drawing near to you because of the faith you already have, even if it's just a whisper of trust in the dark. Think of all the times you've tried to hold it together, to keep smiling when you were breaking, to keep moving forward when your heart was begging you to stop, to be strong for everyone else while silently falling apart. Now imagine what it would feel like to finally stop pretending, to finally tell God everything, not just the clean, filtered parts, but the real, raw truths you've been hiding. He can handle your honesty. In fact, He invites it. Psalm 62:8 says, "Trust in Him at all times, O people. Pour out your hearts before Him. God is a refuge for us. Not a wall, not a judge. A refuge. A place where the storm inside of you can settle. A shelter from the demands of the world and the harshness of your own inner critic." Tonight, when you surrender, you are not showing weakness, you are showing wisdom. You are letting your heart rest in the one place it was always meant to be, the presence of God. Your surrender doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't need to come with tears or trembling. Sometimes it's quiet, still, almost invisible to the outside world, but deeply felt in your soul. It's the moment you stop fighting yourself. Stop defending your timeline. Stop trying to rewrite what only God understands. It's the gentle laying down of your need to know, your need to win, your need to be right. In that laying down, God lifts you up. Isaiah 41:10 says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." That's not a poetic promise, it's a lifeline, and it's offered to you now, right where you are, no matter how messy your room, your heart, or your thoughts. God's hand is already reaching toward you, not with judgment, but with gentleness, not with demands, but with mercy. All He asks is that you let go and take hold, and in this stillness, in this holy hush, something begins to happen inside of you. The anxiety doesn't vanish, but it softens. The fear doesn't disappear, but it no longer defines you. You start to remember that you are not just a person overwhelmed by life, You are a soul anchored in God. You start to feel the pulse of peace where panic used to reside. That is the miracle of surrender. Not that your circumstances change overnight, but that your heart changes in the waiting. You realize that surrender is not the end of effort, it's the end of anxiety. It doesn't make you passive, it makes you prepared. Prepared to hear God's voice again. Prepared to receive what's next. Prepared to rest without guilt. You are not lazy for laying it down. You are brave, you are wise, and you are right where you need to be, in the hands of a God who never lets go. Let that truth be the final thought before your eyes close tonight. Let surrender be your last word, and let peace be the blanket that covers you until morning. There is a divine mystery in the quiet act of surrender, a sacred exchange that shifts the entire atmosphere of your inner world. When you stop gripping what you cannot control, your spirit finally has space to breathe. When you surrender your unspoken fears, your heart begins to hear God's unshakable truth. Tonight, surrender is not about giving up. It's about giving in to peace, to healing, to the presence of the one who knows every detail of your pain and still calls you his. The very God who measured the waters in the hollow of his hand is also the God who gently collects every tear you cry. He is not distant from your distress, he is present in it. Psalm 34:18 reminds us, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." So if you feel broken or crushed tonight, know this. You are in the exact place where miracles are born. You are in the arms of a God who makes beauty from ashes and songs from sorrow. And he is not finished with you yet. Let your soul unclench. Let the burden you've carried like armor fall to the floor. You were not created to live armored, guarded, braced against disappointment. You were created to live open, surrendered, and whole. But wholeness doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from trusting God in the middle of it. That's what surrender really is. Trust. Trust that God's love is stronger than what you fear. Trust that his wisdom is greater than your need for control. Trust that his timing is not a delay, but a divine rhythm designed to heal you. Tonight, as you release your grip on all the things that keep you restless, your past mistakes, your unknown future, your anxious striving, he is already wrapping his arms around your soul. You do not have to do more to be safe. You only have to stay. Stay in this sacred space. Stay under his wing. Stay until peace finds you again. It will. So often we resist surrender because we think it will lead to disappointment. What if letting go means it all falls apart? What if I trust and nothing changes? But the deeper truth is this. What if you surrender and everything finally begins to change, not around you, but within you? What if peace doesn't come from the outcome, but from your obedience to rest? In Matthew 11:28, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Not strategies, not step-by-step solutions. Rest. That's the promise. And rest is the birthplace of restoration. Surrender doesn't mean you've lost your strength. It means you've chosen to use your strength for stillness. That stillness is what allows the voice of God to rise above the noise. That stillness is where clarity is born. That stillness is where the Spirit moves freely. And that stillness is where you remember who you are, not what you do, not what you've lost, but who you are. Beloved, covered and cradled by grace. Maybe you're still waiting for closure from a wound that never fully healed. Maybe you're waiting for answers that haven't come, for resolution that's just out of reach. But God doesn't need everything to be resolved before he brings you peace. Peace is not the product of perfect circumstances. It is the fruit of surrendered hearts. Tonight, you have the invitation to receive peace that doesn't make sense to the world, but is undeniable to your spirit. The peace that lets you sleep even when the future is unclear. The peace that tells your soul, you are safe now, you are held, you can let go. Let go of needing to know. Let go of needing to fix. Let go of needing to be strong. And in that sacred release, discover the deepest strength of all, the strength to be still and trust. That is your inheritance. That is your invitation. And that is the door you've just opened by saying yes to surrender. Let sleep come now, wrapped in the arms of the one who never slumbers. Let grace cover your mind like a warm blanket, and let your final breath tonight be a holy echo. God, I trust you. Surrender is not just a decision. It's a rhythm your soul must learn to move in. Every breath you take tonight can be an act of letting go. Inhale grace, exhale anxiety. Inhale God's peace, exhale your fear. You don't need to do more to earn rest. You are not required to explain, to apologize, or to prepare. You've already arrived at the place God has been waiting to meet you, this exact moment, where exhaustion meets divine invitation. God is not asking you to solve anything before resting in Him. He's asking you to trust that He already holds what you can't carry. As you lie down, let this truth settle over you like a soft blanket. You are not the protector of your future. You are the beloved of the one who already sees it. Psalm 121 says, "He who watches over you will not slumber." That means you can. That means tonight is safe, not because your circumstances changed, but because God has not. He is still sovereign, still good, still near. Let your pillow become your altar. Let the silence become your sanctuary. In this sacred quiet, there is a healing deeper than words. Your mind doesn't need to rehearse the events of the day. Your spirit doesn't need to plead for outcomes. Right now, you are free to simply be. You are safe to release. You are allowed to rest. There's no judgment here, only compassion. There's no pressure, only presence. And in that presence, you'll find the strength you thought you had to manufacture alone. God is not waiting for your perfection. He's waiting for your presence. When you give Him that, He gives you everything else: comfort, assurance, stillness, hope. Let go of the lie that says you have to be on, even in the quiet hours. You are not a machine. You are a soul, and souls need Sabbath. Souls need peace. Souls need to be reminded. You are not the sum of your productivity. You are the sum of His love. Perhaps the battle you've been fighting isn't just external, it's within. The war between what you believe and what you feel. The gap between what you say you trust and what keeps you up at night. This too is where surrender lives. It lives in the tension, in the uneasiness, in the questions you're scared to ask out loud. And God meets you there, not with shame, but with a steady hand. A voice that says, "I know, I've always known, and I'm not leaving." Even your doubt is not too heavy for Him. Even your disappointment cannot drive Him away. His love was never based on your ability to understand. It was based on His decision to stay. So tonight, surrender not just what you fear, but what you don't yet believe. Say, "God, help my unbelief," and let Him cradle you anyway. Let His grace rise above your logic. Let His faithfulness hold your fragile trust. He is not in a hurry. He is here. As you drift toward sleep, know this: you are not alone in your surrender. Heaven leans in every time a weary heart chooses to trust again. There is rejoicing when you lay down the sword and choose the shepherd. You are not invisible. Your surrender tonight echoes in eternity. It writes worship in unseen places. It shakes off chains you never realized were binding you. It restores what anxiety has stolen and revives what grief has buried. Let that miracle begin now, not in fanfare or flashes of light, but in quiet obedience, in the softness of your spirit, in the release of your last waking breath. Let go, child of God. Let go and be carried. Let go and be healed. Let go and know you are loved beyond measure. And tomorrow, when you wake, you'll rise lighter, steadier, freer. Not because the world changed overnight, but because your heart did. Because surrender did its holy work while you rested in the arms of God. There is a sacred rest that only comes when you stop wrestling with what you cannot change. It's the kind of rest that doesn't ignore reality, but trusts God with it. It allows your mind to say, "I don't understand," and your heart to still declare, but I trust you. That space where confusion meets faith is where peace begins to form. Tonight, surrender is the gate to that peace. You don't need to finish every thought. You don't need to resolve every fear. You are allowed to lay it down just as it is, unfolded, unsure. God doesn't require a finished offering to begin His work. He only asks that you give Him what you're holding. And when you do, even the scattered pieces start to settle. Your thoughts begin to slow. Your heart begins to exhale. And in that exhale is an encounter with grace. Not earned, but extended. Grace that says, you are safe now. You are home. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself laying every burden down at the feet of Jesus. Picture your worry like a stone, your fear like a chain, your regret like a heavy cloak, and one by one, you're taking them off. You're stepping out of the layers you've worn all day, maybe for years. You are not what you carry. You are not what you've endured. You are a child of God, and He delights in giving you rest. Jesus said, "Take my yoke upon you, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." That means what you're carrying right now isn't from Him. That heaviness you've grown used to is not your inheritance. Tonight is the night to exchange it, to surrender it, to step into the lightness that comes not from escape, but from intimacy with the Father. He's not asking you to run anymore. He's asking you to receive. Even in the silence, God is speaking. Even in the stillness, He is near. Sometimes we expect surrender to come with fireworks, with breakthroughs, with immediate clarity. But often it arrives gently, quietly, like a whispered lullaby in the dark. Like the moment your body finally relaxes and your soul says, "I don't have to fight anymore." That is surrender's power. Not to solve, but to soothe. Not to erase the pain, but to anchor you through it. The Spirit of God is hovering over you now, just as He hovered over the deep in Genesis before creation began. And He is not done creating in you. There are things being healed, restored, reborn, even as you sleep. But first, surrender makes the space. Surrender says, "Come, Lord." And He comes, not because you performed, but because you invited Him. This is holy ground, and you are wrapped in holy presence. You may wake up tomorrow and face the same reality, but something inside you will be different. That's the quiet miracle of surrender. It changes you first, and when you change, your eyes open to the subtle ways God is already working. The peace that covered you tonight will begin to show up in how you respond to stress, in how you talk to yourself, in how you trust again. This night is not wasted. These moments in silence, this stillness in God's presence, they are shaping your spirit, forming in you a strength the world can't explain. You are not behind. You are not broken beyond repair. You are being remade in rest. Every part of you gently stitched together by the hands of the one who never sleeps. And as your eyes begin to close, may your soul stay open to this final truth. Surrender is not just a step, it is the sacred rhythm that carries you deeper into love, into peace, and into the arms of the God who has always been waiting. There's a grace that only greets you in the dark. When all the lights are out, the noise has faded, and there's nothing left to distract you from what's real. And sometimes what's real is a heart too tired to keep pretending, a mind too cluttered to find rest, a spirit too bruised to feel strong. But it's in that vulnerable space where surrender becomes the most powerful prayer you'll ever pray. Not the prayer of polished words or grand declarations, but the kind whispered through tired lips. "God, I can't, but you can." That's not weakness, that's wisdom, and that's where the healing begins. The moment you stop resisting and start receiving, the moment you stop managing and start abiding, the moment you finally say, "Here I am, Lord, all of me just as I am," and heaven doesn't hesitate. God moves into that sacred space with compassion, with peace, with a presence that fills every corner of your weariness. You may not realize it now, but your surrender tonight is doing more than calming your anxiety. It's altering your spiritual atmosphere. Fear begins to lose its grip when you no longer feed it with your attention. Doubt starts to dissolve when you bring it into the light. When you surrender, you are saying to every lie that's echoed in your mind, "You don't own me anymore." And that declaration releases something holy. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." The stillness is not passive, it's warfare. It's a resistance against the chaos, a rebellion against the demand to perform, a return to your truest self, held in the embrace of the one who never asked you to be more than beloved. So be still now. Be known. Be safe. You are not required to finish the battle tonight. You are only asked to stop fighting alone. There is something sacred in the way God meets us at night, not because the darkness itself is holy, but because it strips us of everything we usually hide behind. In the day, we perform. At night, we are real. And that's when God draws closest, not to what you present, but to who you truly are. In the quiet, He's not put off by your silence. He's not frustrated by your fatigue. He knows what you need before you speak. And sometimes the greatest act of trust is simply breathing in His presence without having to say a thing. Let Him hold what you can't carry. Let Him soothe what you can't explain. Let Him cover you with mercy as sleep finally begins to come. This is not the end of your story. It's a sacred pause, a reset, a place where grace meets you again and again and again. Let your final thoughts tonight be wrapped not in worry, but in wonder. Wonder that God would choose to dwell with you in your need. Wonder that the King of the universe would quiet Himself just to sit beside your weary soul. Wonder that peace is still possible, even here, even now. As your eyes close, you are not drifting into emptiness. You are falling into the arms of the one who never lets go. Let surrender be your lullaby. Let trust be your covering. Let this night be marked not by what you escaped, but by who you encountered. You are safe, you are seen, and you are deeply, eternally loved. Rest now, beloved. Tomorrow will come, and you will rise, not because you are strong, but because you have finally let yourself be held. Surrender isn't just a spiritual concept, it's a spiritual necessity. Without it, your soul carries burdens it was never meant to hold. And those burdens, resentment, control, fear, guilt, have a way of turning even your sleep into restlessness. But when you surrender, truly surrender, something shifts. You stop striving for control and start receiving divine care. You stop rehearsing every what if and start remembering every God is. You stop placing your trust in outcomes and begin anchoring it in character. The character of a God who has never failed you, even when the path felt confusing. Tonight, that same God is inviting you to surrender not just what's hurting you, but also what's haunting you. The thoughts that circle in your head as you lie in bed, the tension in your chest you've grown used to, the memories you keep trying to bury. He doesn't want you to manage them. He wants to heal them. And the first step is surrender. Honest, quiet, vulnerable surrender. What if surrender isn't just laying things down, but letting God pick you up? What if the moment you finally stop clenching your fists is the moment He reaches down and lifts you higher than you've ever stood? That's the beauty of divine strength. It meets you when yours runs out. Isaiah 40:29 says, "He gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might He increases strength." Notice the condition isn't that you be strong, but that you be empty enough to be filled. God isn't asking for your best tonight. He's asking for your real. He's asking for the part of you that doesn't have the answers, that feels like falling apart, that's wondering if you've missed something important. He's not waiting to punish. He's waiting to pour out grace. And grace always flows toward the low places, not the platform, not the polished, but the honest, the surrendered. And right now, that can be you. Breathe deep. Feel your shoulders lower, your jaw release, your breath slow. This is what it feels like to be safe, not because you figured everything out, but because you handed it over. This is what it feels like to be known, not for what you achieve, but for what you allow God to hold. Psalm 23 tells us, "He makes me lie down in green pastures." That means God gently leads you to rest. He doesn't demand it. He invites it. And if you've been afraid to stop, afraid to rest, afraid that everything will fall apart without your constant attention, let this be the moment you finally say, "God, I trust you more than I trust my control." It's not easy, but it is holy, it is healing, and it is enough. You don't need a perfect plan, you just need a surrendered heart. And tonight, that surrendered heart is being wrapped in perfect peace. Even your silence tonight is a prayer. Even your breath, when taken in trust, becomes praise. You don't have to speak eloquently to be heard. You don't have to feel strong to be held. You don't even have to feel hopeful. Because hope is not something you create, it's something you receive. And the doorway to that reception is surrender. A slow, quiet, sacred surrender. One that doesn't rush the process, doesn't force the answer, and doesn't fake the peace, but trusts that peace is already coming, that God is already here, that His hands are already working on your behalf. Surrender doesn't guarantee you'll wake up to a different world, but it guarantees you'll wake up with a different spirit, a softer heart, a clearer mind, a lighter soul. And that, beloved, is the miracle of the night. It's where you stop surviving and start abiding. It's where you stop fighting and start being carried. It's where you stop proving and start breathing, in the presence of a God who calls surrender sacred and calls you. There's a hidden strength that rises only after you've surrendered. It doesn't come from fighting harder or pushing through. It comes when you release your grip and allow God to carry you. That strength is not loud. It's not frantic. It's gentle, quiet, resilient. It's the kind of strength that lets you rest without guilt and breathe without fear. Surrender invites this strength in by creating space where striving once ruled, where shame once lived, where control once screamed. And into that space, God moves with tenderness. Psalm 46:1 says, "God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble." He's not a distant observer. He's not a future solution. He's present, right here, right now, and He is both your safety and your power. You don't have to switch back and forth between surviving and collapsing anymore. Surrender lets you stay steady. Surrender teaches you how to be carried, not crushed, and that is how your soul begins to recover. Surrender is also the invitation to let your identity be reshaped. When we try to control everything, we begin to believe our worth is tied to results, to outcomes, to how well we manage life. But surrender says, "I am loved before I succeed. I am held even when I'm uncertain. I am whole even in the midst of waiting." That's a radical shift, and it doesn't come from books or sermons alone. It comes from surrendering in the dark, letting go when no one sees, choosing trust when the evidence is thin, and realizing that your value has never been dependent on your performance. It's rooted in God's unchanging love. Surrender is what uncovers that truth again. It peels away the layers of shame, fear, comparison, and regret, and reveals what was always underneath: a beloved child of God, worthy of peace, deserving of rest, made for communion. So let yourself be seen. Not the version you wish you were, the one you are tonight. That's the one He loves. As you settle into the stillness, know that God is not impatient with you. He's not tapping His foot waiting for your surrender to be perfect. He's already sitting beside you, whispering, "I'm here." Surrender isn't about getting it right. It's about opening the door, letting Him in, letting go of the urge to earn His nearness. You don't have to prove anything tonight. You don't need to fix every thought or finish every prayer. The invitation is to simply rest, and in that rest, trust that something sacred is happening. Surrender is not inaction. It's the holiest kind of action. It's the brave decision to release what you cannot control and rest in what you can. God's presence, God's love, God's promise to never leave you. The more you let go, the more you discover just how near He really is. And when you realize that, rest becomes worship, silence becomes sacred, stillness becomes strength. Let this night be different, not because your life suddenly changed, but because your posture did. Let tonight mark the beginning of a new rhythm, one where surrender is not a last resort, but your first response. One where peace is not something you chase, but something you allow. You were not made to carry the world. You were made to walk with the one who already holds it, and He holds you too. As you close your eyes, do so knowing that surrender is enough, that you don't have to do more, pray harder, or feel better. You just have to be here, present, open, letting God be God, and letting yourself be small, not in shame, but in safety. You are not abandoned. You are not behind. You are being rebuilt in the rest. And as the night deepens, let your final breath rise like a prayer. God, I surrender. Do what only you can do while I sleep in your peace. There is a divine pause woven into every moment of surrender, a space where the soul is no longer striving and the heart is no longer searching. That pause is not emptiness, it is sacred fullness. It's the place where your hands finally stop reaching and simply open, where your questions soften into whispers and your breath slows into rhythm. Tonight, surrender is that pause, and it is holy. You don't need to solve what feels impossible. You don't need to finish what feels unfinished. You only need to stop and let your spirit rest. God's presence fills the space surrender creates. It's not your effort that invites Him. It's your openness, your willingness to say, I don't know how, but I trust that you do. That single act, honest, trembling trust, is the beginning of a miracle. Because God doesn't rush into our strength. He moves through our weakness, and tonight, in your stillness, He is doing more than you can see. Even the smallest surrender matters, the decision to release that one anxious thought, the choice to not replay that regret, the moment you stop scrolling, stop striving, stop holding your breath. These are the seeds of peace, and God sees every one of them. Matthew 6:6 says that when you go into your room and close the door to pray in secret, the Father who sees in secret will reward you. Tonight, this room, this moment is holy ground. You have entered the secret place, not because of loud prayers, but because of quiet presence. Not because you are strong, but because you are surrendered. And the reward is not external, it is internal. It is the kind of rest that sinks deep into your bones, the kind that silences fear, the kind that says, I don't need to know what comes next because I know who is already there. That's what surrender gives you. Not answers, but assurance. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for your healing is to stop fighting it, to stop rehearsing the pain, to stop proving your strength. Surrender isn't a shortcut. It's the long road walked with grace. It's the moment you decide to trust that God is doing something, even when you cannot feel it. It's choosing to believe that growth can happen in the dark, that hope can rise through the cracks, that God is a gardener and your surrender is the soil. Psalm 126:5 says, those who sow in tears will reap with songs of joy. Your surrender tonight may come with tears. Let them fall. They are not signs of weakness. They are water for what God is growing. He is not wasting a drop. Every sigh, every silent prayer, every shaky breath is a sacred offering. and He receives it with compassion, with gentleness, with joy. Let the weight of your expectations fall from your shoulders now. You were not created to carry tomorrow before it arrives. Jesus said, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself." That's not just advice, it's protection. Surrender is how you step out of the pressure of the future and into the presence of now. Right now, there is peace available. Right now, there is comfort within reach. Right now, there is a Father who sees you, hears you, and is holding you. Let your body relax into that truth. Let your spirit yield to that invitation. The night is not an interruption, it's an opportunity, a sacred lullaby written by the one who never sleeps. Let go. Not because you're giving up, but because you're growing up in faith. Let go. Because God's hands are bigger than yours. Let go. Because you're already held. And as you close your eyes, let this be your prayer. I surrender all, and I am safe. There's a quiet wisdom in knowing when to stop holding on. Not because you're defeated, but because you've learned that some things are too heavy for your hands, but never too heavy for God's. Tonight, surrender is not weakness, it's sacred intelligence. It's the realization that your body can't keep racing for the next hit, your mind can't keep looping worst-case scenarios, and your soul can't keep pretending you've got it all together. You weren't made to live clenched, you were made to live covered. And God's covering begins where your control ends. That's why Psalm 91 speaks not to the strong, but to those who dwell. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. That word, dwell, it means to stay, to live, to make your home. When you surrender, you are choosing to live in that shadow, that safety, that softness. You don't have to perform there. You don't have to earn anything, you just have to stay. Even when everything in you wants to figure it out, fix it, or flee, surrender offers another way. Stay. Stay in His presence long enough for your breathing to slow. Stay under His covering long enough for your heart to be rewired. Stay in the stillness long enough to remember that you are not alone in this room. The air may feel quiet, but you are surrounded by glory. There are angels assigned to your rest. There is grace flowing through the atmosphere, like oil for your aching soul. You don't need to create peace. It's already here. You don't need to earn healing. It's already moving. What you need is the courage to surrender, to say, God, I'm done running. I'm done striving. I'm done managing. I'm here. I'm yours. Help me rest. That prayer doesn't just change your night. It realigns your life, because what we practice in private forms who we are in the world, and tonight, you are practicing the deepest kind of faith. Faith that trusts in the dark. This is the part of the journey where the pain you've buried starts to rise, not to overwhelm you, but to be released. You've been storing so much beneath the surface, unspoken grief, quiet disappointments, regrets you didn't even realize you were carrying. And it's okay. God is not surprised. He is not shocked by the weight of your emotions. He's not asking you to tidy up before He moves in. He's already here, ready to hold what you were never meant to hide. Psalm 147:3 says He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. That's not poetic comfort, it's divine intervention. He is the God who kneels in the dust beside your heartbreak and begins to gently wrap your soul in love. He doesn't rush the process. He doesn't shame the pain. He simply stays. And that staying is your salvation. That presence is your peace. That patience is your permission to fall apart and be made whole again. You are not too far gone. You are not too complicated. You are not too late. These are the lies that surrender breaks. These are the shackles that fall when you whisper, I'm tired, God. I'm letting go. In that release, a door opens, not just to rest, but to resurrection. What has felt dead in you, your hope, your creativity, your trust, your joy, it can live again, not by your power, but by His. That's the beauty of surrender. It puts God back in His rightful place, not as a backup plan, but as the beginning and end. Let tonight be the night you give up the illusion that you must save yourself. Let tonight be the night you finally allow grace to carry you. And as sleep comes, don't resist it. Don't overthink it. Just receive it as a holy gift, a sacred act of trust. Let your final thought be simple and true. I'm safe. I'm seen. I'm surrendered. And that is enough. There's a sacred silence that follows true surrender. A silence not of emptiness, but of fullness. A stillness that doesn't come from the absence of chaos, but from the presence of God. Tonight you are invited into that stillness, not to perform, not to prove, but simply to be, to let yourself exist without explanation, to rest without requirement. You are not here to make sense of everything. You are here to be held. The God who sees every hidden ache in your chest is not waiting for eloquence. He is waiting for honesty. And the moment you say, God, I don't know what I need, but I know I need you, that sacred silence becomes a sanctuary, a place where your spirit is not just soothed, but strengthened. Psalm 131 paints the picture of this surrender. I have calmed and quieted my soul like a weaned child with its mother, not grasping, not reaching, just resting, just being. And in that being, you are blessed. There's something holy happening in the way you exhale tonight. With each breath, you are releasing what you were never created to carry. The fear that has kept you braced, the guilt that has kept you striving, the pressure that has kept you up long after your body begged for rest. God is lifting it now. Not with fanfare, not with force, but with gentleness. He's not scolding you for your exhaustion. He's honoring it, because in his kingdom, surrender is never failure. It's faith. Faith that says, I choose to let go, even when I don't feel ready. Faith that trusts God to be who he says he is, even when life doesn't look like what you hoped. That kind of faith doesn't need clarity. It just needs a place to rest. And that place is here. That place is now. That place is him. Let the room around you become a cathedral of calm. Let the quiet be your chorus. You don't need music to worship. You don't need words to pray. Your stillness is enough. Your surrender is the melody. Heaven leans close when we trust silently. The angels rejoice not only over loud praise, but over soft trust. And tonight, your trust is loud in the halls of eternity. The miracle isn't just that God hears your prayers. It's that he understands your pauses. He interprets your sighs. He meets you in the breath you didn't know was sacred. So breathe. Let this moment be the offering. Not what you do, but who you are. A soul surrendered, a heart open, a spirit safe. You are not failing because you are resting. You are fulfilling your deepest purpose. To dwell in the presence of God and be loved. Even now, as you prepare to fall asleep, let the peace of this surrender wash over every unfinished part of your day. Every text you didn't respond to, every task you didn't complete, every worry you didn't solve. Lay them all at the feet of the one who never sleeps. Psalm 121 promises, he who keeps you will not slumber, and that is your freedom. You can rest, because God doesn't. You can close your eyes, because his never close. He is not just watching over you, he is watching within you, healing you, holding you, whispering truth to the places still tangled in lies. You are not behind, you are not broken, you are not alone. And those words, spoken by the Spirit in the dark, are more powerful than any shout in the light. You are safe to surrender, safe to rest, safe to sleep. And as you do, know this, even in the silence, your soul is singing. Even in the stillness, your heart is healing. Even in the darkness, you are not alone. God is here. Reflection questions. What have I been carrying that is not mine to hold? What would it look like to trust God with the outcome tonight? How is surrender different from giving up, and where do I feel the difference in my body? Scriptural affirmations. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Isaiah 26:3. Call to action. If this night prayer helped you feel seen, safe, or still, share it with someone who needs to let go too. Let's build a community of sacred rest, one surrendered soul at a time. There's something sacred about the moments just before sleep, when the world grows still and your soul becomes louder. It's in this tender quiet that the deepest parts of your heart rise to the surface, the questions that didn't have time to be asked during the day, the emotions that were pushed aside so you could carry on, the hopes you've dared not name aloud. And here, in this vulnerable space, God leans close, not to demand answers, but to offer presence. His presence is not fragile. It does not require perfect conditions or perfect faith. It meets you where you are, exactly as you are. That's what makes surrender so beautiful. It's not about perfection, it's about permission. Permission to be tired, permission to stop pretending, permission to release every burden, every fear, every expectation into hands that will never let you go. Tonight, the peace you long for is not a product of everything finally being okay. It's the fruit of trusting that God is still good, even when it's not. It's not denial. It's deeper awareness. Awareness that the one who knit you together in the womb is still knitting your life together now, even in the unraveling, even in the waiting, even in the letting go. Philippians 4:6-7 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, present your requests to God, and the peace of God will guard your hearts and your minds." Peace is not the absence of anxiety, it's the presence of God protecting you in the middle of it. And that peace is available now, not after the situation changes, but before. Because peace was never about the outcome, it was always about the person who walks with you through it. Let your body begin to soften now. Let your soul come home to itself. You've been so brave, showing up, holding on, pressing through. But tonight, bravery looks like surrender. Bravery looks like lying down, not in defeat, but in faith. Faith that says, I don't have to see how it all works out to know that I'm held. Psalm 23 reminds us, He makes me lie down in green pastures, makes me. Sometimes surrender doesn't come naturally. Sometimes it requires divine permission and divine interruption. And God is offering you both right now. You don't need to do more to receive this rest. You just need to say yes to it. Yes to stillness. Yes to softness. Yes to being wrapped in a love that does not flinch at your flaws or grow weary of your need. A love that holds you closer in the dark. You may not have the words to pray tonight. That's okay. God understands silence. He reads sighs. He listens to your breathing like a lullaby. Romans 8:26 tells us that when we don't know what to pray, the Spirit intercedes for us with groans too deep for words. You are never unheard. You are never ignored. Heaven is not distant. It is woven into this moment, into this surrender, into this breath. You are not just releasing stress tonight. You are releasing control, fear, regret, and self-reliance. And in that release, you are returning to the Father's heart, to the truth of who you are, to the rhythm of grace that says, rest, beloved. I've got you. I always have. Let your final thoughts be anchored not in what you're losing, but in what you're gaining. By surrendering tonight, you are gaining clarity, healing, and the unseen work of grace that moves while you sleep. You're gaining a deeper awareness that you're never alone, that even in your most quiet, unspoken needs, God is already responding. As your eyes begin to close, let this night become more than recovery. Let it be a resurrection, a rising of peace where fear once lived, a rising of trust where doubt once ruled, a rising of rest that reminds your whole being, I am loved. I am safe. I am home. There's a sacred dignity in surrender that the world doesn't always understand. The world tells you to press on, push harder, prove your worth. But God whispers something else entirely. Lay it down. I'm already here. True surrender is not about giving up. It's about giving over. Handing what is fragile to the one who is faithful. Releasing what is breaking into hands that have never failed to restore. Tonight, that surrender is not a passive retreat. It is a bold return to peace. Peace that does not depend on clarity, but on closeness. You do not need every answer to rest. You only need to know that God is near. Psalm 145:18 says, "The Lord is near to all who call on him, to all who call on him in truth." And your truth tonight is enough, even if it's a whisper, even if it's silence wrapped in a shaky breath. He is near. Let the voices in your mind begin to quiet, the ones that replay conversations, reanalyze choices, rehearse fears. You don't need to answer them tonight. You don't need to silence them with logic or distraction. You only need to return your heart to stillness, to choose trust again, to whisper, "God, I release it." That whisper is worship. That moment is holy. That surrender is strength. And in the stillness that follows, peace will rise, not like a flood, but like a gentle tide that meets you just where you are. One wave of grace, one breath of mercy, one sacred moment at a time. Let your room become your sanctuary. Let the silence become your song. Let the warmth of your blanket remind you of God's covering. You are not uncovered tonight. You are not exposed. You are hidden in Christ. And in that hiding, you are healing. Think of how long you've tried to carry things on your own. All the fears you tucked away so no one would see. All the pain you minimized so you wouldn't feel weak. All the control you've clung to because letting go felt too risky. And now, here you are, still standing, still breathing, still longing for peace. That longing itself is holy. It's a sign that your soul remembers its home. That you were not created for constant strain. You were made to rest. And not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally, wholly. That kind of rest only comes through surrender. Not because surrender fixes everything, but because it gives everything to the one who can. And tonight, that's all that's being asked of you. Not to fix, not to figure out, simply to let go. The deepest healing often begins in the quietest moments. When the lights are low, the noise fades, and the only sound left is the soft beat of your own heart. That's where God speaks clearest, not always in words, but in presence, in comfort, in the kind of peace that seeps into your bones and reminds your nervous system that it's safe to relax, safe to sleep, safe to be. Surrender invites that kind of healing. It opens the door for God to move not just around you, but within you. Let him into the places that ache, the memories that sting, the fears that keep circling. He doesn't just observe, he enters, and when he enters, peace stays. That's the miracle of surrender. It transforms your night into sacred space and your stillness into strength. So tonight, lay down not just your body but your burdens. Don't fall asleep with fists clenched and heart guarded. Loosen your grip, open your spirit. Say, "God, I trust you with everything I don't understand." And let that trust become your lullaby. Let that surrender become your shelter. You are not unprotected. You are not abandoned. You are not unseen. You are completely, eternally held. And as you rest, heaven, watch, grace surrounds, love remains. Let sleep come now, not as an escape, but as a homecoming, a return to the peace that has always been yours in him, a peace that will greet you again in the morning, born from the beauty of your brave surrender tonight. There's a holy invitation woven into the very fabric of this night, an invitation not to strive, not to perform, but to rest deeply, completely, freely. You've spent your day carrying responsibilities, wrestling with questions, responding to pressures, maybe even smiling through pain. But now, God is calling you into a different kind of space, A space where the weight you've carried can finally fall. A space where your heart is allowed to beat slowly, where your mind is allowed to be quiet, where your soul is allowed to simply be. You don't need to keep analyzing or apologizing or anticipating. You only need to enter the stillness of surrender. And in that stillness, let your soul exhale. Let your spirit unclench. Let your entire being remember, I am loved, I am covered, I am enough. Even when I do nothing at all, this night is not an accident. It is not random. It has been prepared for you, not just to rest your body, but to restore your identity. The world has tried to name you by your productivity, your pain, your past. But in God's presence, all of that fades. You are not your mistakes. You are not your fears. You are not your exhaustion. You are His. Psalm 3:5 declares, I lay down and slept. I awoke, for the Lord sustained me. That's not just a verse. It's a promise, a divine rhythm. You can lay down because God is standing guard. You can sleep because He never slumbers. And in that sleep, He sustains you. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, deeply. You wake lighter not because the world changed, but because something in you did. That's what surrender does. It makes space for God to renew what the day has drained. Tonight is your sacred reset, the beginning of a new rhythm. A rhythm that does not ignore life's hardships but anchors you in grace through them. A rhythm that does not numb the pain but welcomes peace alongside it. A rhythm that does not require you to be invincible, only available. Surrender is how you become available to grace. And grace is not passive. It's powerful. It steps into your weakness and speaks life. It steps into your fear and restores faith. It steps into your brokenness and begins to build again. You are being rebuilt tonight, not with effort but with surrender, not by force but by faith. Let yourself receive what you don't have to earn. Let your soul be ministered to by a love that doesn't rush or retreat. Let the very air around you become holy with peace. Let this be your benediction. God, I surrender every part of me into your care, my thoughts, my body, my fears, my fatigue, my questions. I place it all in your hands tonight, not to be ignored, but to be healed. I give you my burdened heart, my restless mind, my fragile hope, and I trust that you are near. You don't need to say more. You don't need to do more. Rest is now your response. Sleep is now your sanctuary, and in that sleep, heaven will hold you. Reflection questions. What does it mean for me to rest in God's presence without having all the answers? Where have I placed pressure on myself that God has not? What can I surrender tonight that would open space for healing? Scriptural affirmations. I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. Psalm 127. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. Call to action. If this night prayer spoke peace into your spirit, share it with someone who needs to lay down their burdens too. Help them step into the sacred gift of surrender, and let's build a rhythm of rest together, one night, one soul at a time.